I never thought I would be the kind of person telling a story like this on the internet, but here I am. My wife and I had been married for almost 9 years. We met when we were both in our early 20s, working part-time jobs while finishing college. Back then everything felt simple. We were broke, but we were happy. We built our life slowly, a small apartment first, then better jobs, then eventually a house. For most of our marriage, I truly believed we had something strong. We had arguments like any couple, sure. Mostly about work stress, money, or stupid little things like whose turn it was to do the dishes. But nothing ever made me think she was capable of cheating. At least not until about 6 months ago. The first thing that changed was her routine. She started coming home later than usual. At first she blamed work. She said her company was understaffed and she had to stay longer. I didn't question it because her job had busy periods before. But then the small things started piling up. She suddenly became extremely protective of her phone. Before, she would leave it anywhere in the house. Now she carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. If a notification appeared while we were watching TV, she would immediately flip the phone over. One night I casually asked who she was texting so much. She laughed and said it was just a coworker complaining about their boss. Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Still, I pushed the thought away. When you love someone for almost a decade, your brain tries to protect that image of them. But the doubts kept growing. She started going to the gym more often, buying new clothes, and paying much more attention to her appearance. Again, none of those things are bad on their own. People change. People improve themselves. But the timing felt strange. Around that time she also became emotionally distant. Conversations felt shorter. When we sat together, it felt like she was somewhere else mentally. I remember one moment very clearly. We were eating dinner and she kept smiling at her phone under the table. Not a normal smile. The kind of smile someone has when they're talking to someone they're excited about. That was the first time the thought crossed my mind. What if there's someone else? I hated myself for thinking it. But once that idea appears, it's hard to get rid of it. For weeks I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. Until the night everything changed. It was a Friday. She told me she was going out with some coworkers for drinks after work. That wasn't unusual, so I stayed home and spent the evening playing games and watching YouTube. Around 10:30 p.m. I got a phone call from her number. I answered immediately. But it wasn't my wife speaking. It was a man. At first I thought maybe someone had picked up her phone by mistake at the bar. But then I heard her voice in the background. And what I heard next made my stomach drop. She was laughing. Not the polite laugh she used with coworkers. It was the kind of laugh she used with me years ago when we first started dating. The man said something like, "Relax, he won't know." I froze. They hadn't realized the phone had dialed me. For about 10 seconds I just listened. Then she suddenly said my name. "Wait, why is your phone calling my husband?" The line went silent. Then the call ended. My hands were shaking. I must have stared at my phone for 5 straight minutes trying to process what just happened. Part of me still wanted to believe there was some innocent explanation. But deep down I already knew. When she finally came home around midnight, I didn't say anything right away. She walked in acting completely normal, like nothing had happened. She even asked if I had eaten dinner. That's when I asked the question. "Who were you with tonight?" She paused for just a second. Then she said the same thing she always said. "Just coworkers." So I told her about the phone call. I watched the color drain from her face. For a moment she tried to deny it. She said it must have been a misunderstanding. But the story kept falling apart the more she talked. Finally she sat down and started crying. And that's when she admitted everything. The guy was someone from her office. They had started talking a few months earlier. At first it was just flirting during work hours. Then they began messaging outside work. Eventually it turned into meeting after work. She claimed the physical part only happened twice. But honestly, by that point the number didn't matter. What hurt the most wasn't even the cheating itself. It was the months of lying. The late nights. The fake work excuses. The way she could come home, sit next to me, and act like everything was normal. I asked her the question everyone asks in that situation. Why? Her answer was frustratingly vague. She said she felt bored with our routine. She said the attention felt exciting. She said it just happened. But affairs don't just happen. They're a series of choices. Hundreds of small decisions that lead to one big betrayal. That night we barely slept. We talked for hours. She apologized over and over again. She said it was a mistake and begged for another chance. But every time I looked at her, all I could think about was that phone call. About hearing another man laughing with my wife. About hearing him say, "He won't know." The next morning I told her I needed space. I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother for a few days. And honestly, that distance made me realize something important. The trust was gone. Completely. Even if I wanted to forgive her, I knew I would always question everything. Every late message. Every overtime shift. Every girl's night. Living like that isn't a marriage. It's a constant investigation. So a week later I told her I wanted a divorce. It was one of the hardest conversations of my life. She cried. She apologized again. She promised she would quit her job and cut contact with him. But by then it was too late. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. And trust is one of them. That was 3 months ago. The divorce process is still ongoing. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine now. Some days are rough. 9 years is a long time to suddenly erase from your future. But I'm slowly realizing something. Sometimes discovering the truth, even in the worst way possible, is better than living a lie. And if that phone hadn't dialed me by accident that night, I might still be living in that lie today.